Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Especially attendees who joined us earlier, thank you so much for the patience. I'm Nilesh, and I'm the head of marketing at CustomerSuccessBox. I welcome you all to our webinar on the ultimate guide to building a customer success team. Now, before we get started, I would like to remind you all that we are recording this webinar, and you'll be receiving a link to the recording post the webinar. You are welcome to send your questions throughout the webinar via the Q&A box at the bottom of your screens, and we'll try and answer as many of them during the presentation as well as during Q&A. There will also be a 10-minute live walkthrough of our customer success platform right after the presentation. So hold on. Now, I'm pleased to introduce to you our speaker, Debbi Stanley. Debbi has been focused on helping clients leverage technology for the past 16 years and currently serves as Vice President of Sales and Customer Success for Rallybound, an innovative digital fundraising provider. Her passion for helping customers is drawn from years of professional experience, engaging with customers across multiple touchpoints. Intuitively, she can see the details of the customer journey and enjoys finding the customer's voice. But what makes Debbi the authority on this subject is that even before managing new and recurring revenue at Rallybound, Debbi set up and managed customer success programs at several SaaS organizations, including Blackbaud, and has served in several leadership roles in the community. In today's webinar, Debbi will be answering the most common questions of SaaS leaders and customer success practitioners trying to set up a customer success team. This webinar will be moderated by Puneet Kataria. In his previous avatar, Puneet was the VP at a B2B SaaS company, Kayako, where he inherited 10K plus live accounts and was tasked to plug the leaky bucket. 5 years later, that has translated into an obsession to fix the leak for every B2B SaaS business. And he started CustomerSuccessBox, where he leads as a founder and CEO. In over 16 years of professional experience, Puneet has held leadership positions at ThoughtWorks, IBM, Telelogic, and he started his career as an engineer at Honeywell Aerospace. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Debbi and Puneet.
Thank you so much. That was such a nice introduction. So as we said, we will be discussing some of the most common goals, best practices on starting and building a customer success team. How large should it be? How do you scale? What KPIs should you be measuring? Where do you find these people? What tech can you use to help make your jobs easier? And a couple of mistakes to avoid. You know, as we said, if you have questions along the way, and I know we've got one already, and I hope that the information we're going to share will help with those kind of startup questions. We're just starting a team. What do we do? What are our first steps? How do we get there? So first of all, a little bit about me. So I got my passion for customer success at really, as you said, understanding the customer's voice. I've built several programs from the ground up. I've made my mistakes. I've had my successes. But the key is customer success is about success. And one of my mantras is a saying from Sam Walton, you know, founder of Walmart, where he said, only one person can put you out of business, and that's the customer, simply by taking their business somewhere else. We want to stop that. I like stopping the leaky bucket. We want to make sure that customers stay. They're using our product. They're invested not only in the solution you provided, but in being a partner with you. As you said, I work for a company called Rallybound. We are a digital fundraising tool, and I'm responsible for new revenue as well as protecting our existing revenue through our customer success program. We are a SaaS business, and this is, you know, why it matters. As I said, we're a startup, so pretty standard. We're transactional. We get paid on a percentage of donations made. We've also got annual licenses. Our average contract value is fairly modest. So we've got to have a good economy of scale. we've got to protect those higher end clients. So these are the lessons that I'm living every day. And it's, as I said, one of the third programs that I've created. And just understanding your customer acquisition cost, understanding your business is the first step in building a program. One of the questions we always get is, when should we start a customer success program? Well, why it matters determines when it matters, because we always want our customers to be successful. I mean, nobody gets into business wanting to create failure. So in our business, it's pretty easy to see what success is. So for example, we've got a client, they're a health and human service organization. They run a walk to raise money for their child development center. Their goal of this walk is $100,000 because it costs $10,000 to serve one child in this program. Well, if they make their goal, they can serve 10 children. If they don't make their goal, then there's kids they can't serve. So my customer success team is structured. So not only are they meeting those stated goals for this fundraising initiative, but they can go further. They can blow it out of the water. So those children don't represent cartoon characters, but they're real, live, breathing children that need affordable daycare, that need support during those early development days. So that type of success matters, and that passion has got to be reflected in every member of my team. So while you may not have such a dramatic performance indicator, I think most of the folks on the line today understand the simple principle of SaaS business. Customer retention is revenue retention. Revenue protection, whatever you want to call it, but it matters. There's all kinds of stats. It takes 5 times more money to earn a new customer than to keep an existing one, and yada, yada, yada. But the key is keeping those customers, and what's paramount to keeping them is keeping them happy, keeping them engaged, making sure that they're utilizing your product in all of the ways that you designed it to be kept. I talk about that it's, treat them the way you want to be treated. We've all bought those things. We've bought some product and it sits on a shelf because you forgot what you were going to use it for. You forgot what it was for. Customer success made its first appearance in the hallowed halls of Salesforce and has become a movement over the last 10 years. Some may argue that Salesforce was, not the first, but, just an evolution of an industry. But they were the first to recognize the importance of adoption, product adoption in customer retention. When we talk about treatment, it can vary from person to person, company to company, but have you ever been to a restaurant and, here's the scenario. The waitress comes by and you're like, we want to order. And she's like, well, wait your turn. And you're like, well, we can just leave. And she's like, no, you're not, because your butt's already in the seat. No one likes to feel like they have no say. Like they simply are just butts in a seat to you. Now, some solutions are easier to leave than others. And I'm going to share some specifics around that at the end. But what we're going to cover now are the basics. How to get them to stay, how to make them successful with your product, and how to get them to rave about it to the world. So the first question is, when do you start a program? Was there a question?
Hey, yes. Hey, Debbie. So hi, everyone. I'm Puneet. And to Debbie, let's keep this as interactive as we can. And with your permission, can I keep chiming in with all the comments and questions which are coming in? Will that be okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And if that's also comfortable, if you want to throw on your video cam so that everybody can say hi, and that'll be wonderful too.
Now I got to figure out how to do that.
Technology. We need a success manager here. I think there should be a video I can right at the bottom of the screen, most likely. And if you can't find it, that's okay. That's okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
That's fine. So, but let's keep having this conversation. So you in your last slide, you mentioned about treating customers the way we would like to be treated. And so, what do we really mean by treatment here? Is a customer success manager providing a service to the customers, to the B2B SaaS customers? Is he like somebody who's providing a service? He's at service to them. Is he a friend, he or she a friend to them? Or is the customer success manager a doctor patient relationship where success manager is the doctor and he's trying to help and guide and coach and maybe fix some broken things? And what's the relationship? What's the treatment?
Great question. So treatment can vary from person to person, company to company. And of course you want to be friendly, but your role is a trusted advisor. So it's more of that doctor. You're diagnosing problems, coming up with solutions, really looking at their business holistically on what you're trying to resolve for them. So it's beyond like a support analyst or something like that. What you're trying to do is to come alongside them almost as an extension of their team and help solve problems in ways they may not have thought of. You have deep product knowledge, you have deep industry knowledge. You want to share that with them in a trusted advisor role. So that's what I'm talking about, treating them the way you'd like to be treated as that advisor and as that resource for them. Does that make sense?
Oh, a ton. And I would invite everybody else to, feel free to sort of comment and dive into the conversation over the chat room here. But yes, to me, I think it makes perfect sense. And no wonder, I think, why a customer success role is so different to a typical customer support role, which I think was more of a problem resolver or, somebody who's serving to a question or addressing versus success who's coming in in a doctor role. Clarifies so many things. So thanks for that.
Yeah, great. So kind of moving on. So when do you start a customer success program? Well, as a founder, and on so many SaaS companies, we're founding programs, we're founding solutions. You're required to wear many hats. You want your clients to be successful with your product from day one. But most systems are built, they've got these blinders on with the end solution in mind. So, by designers and development and business people who see a problem and want to solve it with product. But as you grow, you'll begin to understand product usage. And this is going back to the point on who is your client success manager. They can delve into the details. How is somebody really using your product? That intel can help drive decisions throughout your product lifecycle. So in your early days, you want all of that information. And there'll be a natural tipping point depending on your market. When can you readily identify those top-tier clients who can take advantage of that additional support, who can stretch beyond their initial purchase? 100 to 200 clients where you can identify the top 20% who are driving 80% of your revenue. As I said, at Rallybound, our average contract is about $8,000. It's a total contract value for an annual basis. Those are our baseline customers. Our 20% are more like 30 or 40,000 a year annual contract value. those are the people that we're focused in on at the very beginning of our program. We want to make sure that they get live quickly, that they start transacting quickly. And so that tipping point, honestly, will become very obvious to you as you grow your business. So when will depend on your market. How depends on when you understand those performance indicators. One of the things I'm going to talk about later is when mistakes is if you can't measure your adoption metrics, you're not ready yet. So you want to make sure that you have that data readily available so you can understand how to make people successful. You know, this is just a simple definition of the space. And as we talked about earlier, it's a newer business function, and it often gets confused. And I get a little irritated when I see things out in the markets like, it's an extension of our technical support team. It's an extension of our account management. It's an inside sales role. It is not. It is about creating raving fans. It is about product adoption at its heart, creating that customers for life. And it's really keen to keep in mind not only what customer success is, but also what it is not. They're not support analysts. They're not glorified account managers. Your client success manager should be revered. Your client should be wanting to steal them from you. But they need to be passionate about what they're teaching, what they're bringing to the table, so that that value is relevant to your customers. They need deep industry expertise, impeccable customer skills, strong analytics, but most of all, able to make things happen. You know, you're always going to have situations where something's not getting resolved, whether it's a break-fix situation or a training issue. Your customer success manager's got to have the discernment to be able to pick through those pieces and determine what needs to get done. So, very important definition first off. So
Debbi,
go ahead. I knew you were going to chime in, so I was pausing.
Thank you. So, you know, on the last one, I think it's very clear that no, they're not extension of customer support team, but clearly they're not replacing, like you mentioned, customer success does not replaces customer support, and customer support is still a very critical and an important and an ongoing part of every business. But what is the relationship between a customer support team and a customer success team? How do they interact? How will the ball on one customer move, you know, between them if they're working on the same issue on the same customer? So how do they operate together? What is the relationship that they maintain? Do they report to are they part of the same organization? Do they report to different leaders? How does that work? I'm sorry, these are like too many questions, but.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So let me take that last question first. Who do they report into the same organizations? In my humble opinion, they don't. You know, technical support is a customer support function. They're about help tickets. They're about closing issues, resolving problems. It is task oriented. The customer success, they own the customer relationship. So to the first part of that question, how do they interact? So part of your SLAs, your service level agreements, should include an escalation to the client success manager. So for example, if I've got an SLA that is a 4-hour turnaround on a mission critical element, if it gets to 8 hours, 10 hours, there needs to be an escalation to the customer success manager so that they can dive into the issue and find out why it's not getting resolved. Because that relationship with the customer is so important for the client, the customer success manager. From orchestrating the attention on a business imperative basis to taking corrective action, they need to be able to guide the customer's journey to greater product adoption and a deeper relationship. Nothing can kill a customer relationship than a help desk ticket that remains open-ended past a point of expected closure. So the client success manager isn't responsible for closing that ticket, but they're responsible for making sure that the right attention is given to the right customers in the right way. So I'm going to review, more about those KPIs and more about the organization structure as we move along. But the key is it's a fine-tuned machine. Everybody working towards the same goal with the client success manager kind of driving the bus. Does that make sense as well?
Yes, a lot, and I think thank you. That was very good. We got that clarified. Although I'm now, and if you want to answer that later, that's fine. I have a follow-on on this. How are we looking at the customer success manager? If he's not the technical support individual, so that means he's not the product expert, he's more like the business expert? Is that what you're also hinting at?
And
if you want to answer
yes and no.
Okay.
No, I'll answer it now because it's a good question. Yes and no. They need to be a product expert. They need to know the product inside and out. They also need to be an industry expert. They also need to be a expert on that customer's business. In our business, it's fundraising, but fundraising takes on many different personalities. It can be an event, it can be a gala, it can be a golf tournament, it can be a walk, it can be any number of things. So my customer success people have got to know the product very, very well in order to match technology to those business needs. So it's very important. And actually, it's a perfect lead into what your first hire would be. Your first hire would be a one-to-one person that is a consultative resource for your top-tier clients. They almost act as an extension of that top-tier client's team, truly understanding how they want to use the product and helping them execute on that. They also have to have very clear financial goals. So, is the goal of your customer success team just, get further adoption? No. It's to get further adoption in order to retain and identify opportunities for new revenue streams, whether it's additional licenses, whether it's additional seats, whether it's expansion on a freemium to a premium product. What is that? So this one-to-one client success manager, not a salesperson, but they are trusted advisors, again, driving the bus. Sales is part of that bus. Customer support is part of that bus. But making those top-tier clients happy is the singular goal of your first client success manager, which is your one-to-one focused on your top-tier customers. So, it really, it's custom support as opposed to customer support. So what do they need to be supported? What does, and client A and client B may have different needs in that support. Their best practices may be different. Their software configurations may be different. That one-to-one client success manager needs to understand all of that and help deploy these plans to get there. And now how do they determine what those plans and what all that looks like? Well, we talk about the quarterly business reviews. The CSM needs to be in lockstep with any sales rep, any account manager, any support analyst assigned to the account. Because those quarterly business reviews can reveal a lot of things about a client. Potential staff turnover, expansions of their business. So you as that one-to-one CSM as an extension of their staff can help inform sales on new opportunity, can inform product on gaps of delivery. So ideally, a quarterly business review takes place on site with all the members of the customer team, internal and external. It should be treated as sacred time that everybody is committed to. Now, one of the questions we always get, and I know we've got some chat questions come in, and I'm not looking at them.
Yeah.
So if you need to interrupt me at any time, please feel free.
Sure.
But that sacred time to review those business goals specific to that client.
Yeah, and I think yes, that's sort of very spot on. Iftikhar actually has a very interesting question, and I think everybody is almost agreeing to what she's saying, and everybody's chiming in. Derek actually feels that we definitely should be customizing support to every individual needs. We are obviously not, we are humans, and that's the entire advantage of not automating just this one element. So Iftikhar wants to know that what is the best way to align your tech support team? Should they call support team and your account management team together and make yourself look like a single team in front of the customers? And when in fact, you spoke about the sacred time of the quarterly business review. Should members of support team also participate in that? Should member of sales team or account management also participate in that in addition to success managers?
Yeah, it's going to depend on your business model. So for, in most cases, your salesperson, or depending on how your sales team is structured, if you've got an inside outbound sales team, then it turns over to account manager. Whoever on the sales side has responsibility for the account post-sales should always be part of those business reviews. If you've got a technical analyst that is assigned to a specific account, yes, they should be part of those quarterly business review. I'm going to dive a little bit more into alignment a little bit further in on our discussion today. So I don't want to hop too far ahead, but it is important for everybody to be in lockstep and understand the business goals for the client. And so the quarterly business reviews are a great way to do that. It's a great time to get everybody involved. It's a great time to review how every piece of your business is supporting the pieces of their business. So yeah, it is important for everybody to be involved.
So, and I think you sort of spot on there, the QBR becomes we only do 4 of those in the entire year. And I think they become like the critical milestones, and we always want to make sure that we're coming out good from every QBR is conducted well. We know exactly where the product adoption and the value delivered stages, and we want to come out of each QBR identifying the gaps, setting the new goals, and making sure everybody is on the same page that, okay, in the next quarter, in the next 90 days, this is what we want to achieve. Which is a client representative, like if you're doing it with the management, or the success manager, and success manager representing the vendor side. But what exactly happens in that quarterly business review? It seems clearly you've done so many of dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of them already, Debbie. Why don't you take us through? Because, frankly, I've read so much about quarterly business reviews, but there is so little. Everybody's at the surface. Why don't you take us a little more deeper inside quarterly business review? And by the way, you should be able to switch on your camera now. I realized there was some permission at my end, which was not. Yep, there we go. We can see you.
Am I there?
Yes,
yay.
You are.
That's either a yay or a boo. I don't know. So the quarterly business review, it's going to depend on your business. So for example, in our business, I'm looking at what are their fundraising initiatives? What are they, what do they have coming up? So it's a looking back and looking forward. We review support tickets. We talk through product roadmap. So again, it's looking back and looking forward at what we've done well, what we need to fix, and what we need to do in the future. So honestly, your quarterly business review will revolve around your KPIs for the business, which roll up or roll down, I guess, trickle down to the KPIs for each individual client. So we look at growth in revenue, growth in fundraising dollars, success of campaigns. So it's going to depend on what does success look like for your product with your customers. So I think quarterly business reviews to be standardized, but it's really about your business. And so it would be based on what your business sees as success. So one of the questions I always get, and leveraging off the quarterly business review is a good place to talk about it, is the rule of thumb on how many clients a client success manager can handle. And a good rule of thumb is 50 for every one-to-one CSM. It depends on the complexity of your product. So you think about it, they're doing 50 quarterly business reviews, ideally on site. That may not be scalable for your business. It may be too many, it may be too little. But a good rule of thumb is 50 for every one-to-one client success manager.
Wow. So I think that's a very good insight. So Mike, in fact, had a very interesting sort of point / question, and it would let's hear you on that, Debbie. So Mike feels that will every customer require a business review? Everybody definitely wants good experience. Okay. How do you decide?
No, and Mike, that's absolutely true. You want them to have quarterly business reviews, but they don't always want them. They may not want that support. You know, it goes right back to what you were talking about earlier, the treatment of your clients. How do they want to be treated? I have some clients that are like, everything's fine, check in with me once a quarter with a quick phone call, it's all good. I'll let you know what I need. You still want them to remain in your one-to-one CSM program because they're top tier clients. You want to be noticing any at-risk behavior, but they don't want like a full business review. On the other hand, I have clients that's like, we want quarterly business reviews and we want monthly status checks against that quarterly business review. Like, okay. So it's making sure, and you know, what we said about finding out the business objectives, aligning yourself with those business objectives from the client's perspective, not just what you want to make happen.
So I think that's very good. That's a very good point. I think this is where you, as a success manager, you play doctor. The patient feels he's all right, but the doctor insists that, hey, all right, even if you don't want the full CT scan, but you definitely want to take that quarterly blood test. So is there a mini version of, is there a mini version that we can do? It's like, all right, let's get on a call, 30 minutes, maybe not face-to-face, 60 minutes, and do it remotely like you and I are doing right now over a remote meeting. And depending on what comes out of that, then you can choose, all right, looks like we want to dive in. Let's schedule a call where we will come down and see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, you start with your template. These are the items that you want to be measuring quarterly. Then every client won't have the same template. Some will only use this piece, some will only use this piece. And by looking at it's scalable. So you start here and you can customize it based on what their specific needs are. So many business reviews, just checking in with senior leadership. It's, you know, hey, it's like any rule. There's a hard and fast, and then there's variation. And that's where the discernment and hiring strong staff that has some discernment ability. That's one of the hardest things to hire for. But having that discernment is important.
Great. Laura, yep, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so your first hire is at 1-to-1. And then there's a couple of schools of thought on what that next hire should be. I believe very strongly, and this kind of goes alongside what we're talking about with quarterly business reviews and the support analyst, is your next hire, I believe, should be your an onboarding specialist. So we talk a lot. Go ahead.
Debbie, I know I'm interrupting, but this is sort of very critical to,
no, you're fine.
to making sure that everybody understands what you're saying. So Laura has a very interesting point here, and she, in fact, wants to completely understand that when you say 1-to-1, are you talking about like tier 1 customers enjoying that 1-to-1 dedicated success manager relationship? And
yes.
If that's,
yes.
Okay, great. And then what does the success plan look like for tier 2, tier 3, if assuming, customers are, segmented into tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 1 being the most high paying, most, the best of the top customers.
The best, the top of the top. So I'm getting right there in just 1 second. So let me get there. So the first hire is at 1-to-1 because those top tier clients are so critical. Then, as Laura points out, then you've got other tiers. And so we're going to get to there in a second. But one common thread is what I call the valley of death. So we hear a lot in customer success about the voice of the customer, VOC. But I talk about VOD, the valley of death. And that's the handoff from sales. Sales has sold this project, and now it's going into implementation. And there's this valley that happens. So some clients can't even get into product adoption because they can't get out of onboarding, whether it's delays on their side, delays on your side. That's why I call it the valley of death, because nobody's really responsible. Now, depending on the complexity, again, of your product, this person is responsible for ensuring that that deployment happens properly, because you want to get them off to the right foot. That is so critical. So your next hire is an onboarding specialist. This person is responsible for the handoff between sales, professional services, deployment. They act as a project manager to ensure that all expectations are being met. So the qualifications for a role like this will vary. They could be highly technical. They can be a project management, PMP, but it's about getting the customer transacting on your product as soon as possible. Studies show that we're all like that kid on Christmas morning. We love our new toy. We're so excited until we don't, until we're not anymore, until it's not new. So we want to keep that loving feeling for as long as possible, not lose that enthusiasm during the pain of implementation. Now, that implementation specialist can certainly walks alongside the role of your professional services team that is in charge of building, developing, deploying your product. And I like this idea. It works in some business. It doesn't work on some business. For that onboarding specialist to stay with that client a little longer. And that goes to your tier 2 scenario. That everybody, you want to be successful. You want to be successful off the bat. And those first 90 days with your product is so important. So they're installed, yay, now what? So expanding your onboarding program beyond the deployment, I don't know, maybe another 6 months, whatever works with yours, whatever you can measure as proper adoption, allows you to reinforce the training and the learning, really solidify your relationship with the client. You can expand that training to include top product functions that are beyond the scope of just, here's how it works out of the box. Case studies of like clients. But one of the best things you can do is be that first line of defense for support issues. All of the statistics show your highest number of help tickets are during those first 90 to 120 days. If you've got an onboarding specialist that's paying attention, making sure that those help tickets are getting resolved quickly, you've established a strong baseline expectation for the client. Nothing can destroy client experience quicker than support tickets that are not getting resolved. They have no expectation yet. They don't know what to expect from your support line. So you got to set that stage right, and that's where that onboarding specialist can be so critical of making sure SLAs are being maintained and being that first point of contact for those fresh, new freshman orientation. I was telling the story that my son's a freshman in college. So his whole first year, he has to attend a class on what it is to be a freshman in college. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of like, it's stupid. And I'm like, well, it might be stupid, but studies show that if you pay attention to that newbie, they'll become an oldie. So now that onboarding rep can be two different roles. It could be an implementation specialist as followed by an onboarding rep. I've even seen some programs create like a technical account manager role within the client success program that is solely responsible for escalating support problems. The goal is to create successful customers and ensure that the decks are clear and there is no valley of death where people feel like they're just starving out there.
No, I think it's beautifully articulated. That moment when sales is done, the contract is signed, and all of a sudden sales is like, hey, you know what? I don't have time for this customer anymore because I'm going to go and chase my new lead.
I'm done. Yeah.
More opportunities, right? And then on the other end, CSMs and everybody else is still dealing with the existing customers that are enough load, and it's very common. And this apparently happens like you described when this freshman is at the peak of excitement with the new toy, and that'll be the worst moment to sort of have nobody take notice or pay attention that is needed. But one interesting question, I have Laura and Simaran Jeet both asked this question, is like, why can't the success manager be that onboarding specialist as well? And especially, and I actually agree with them, unless, like I personally feel, unless there is like that onboarding, it's so technical that a success manager is, and it requires for technical reasons that you require a specialist with different skills. The onboarding time is the time when because you are sort of working with the customer at their maximum excitement level, it also offers that opportunity to build a bond, which is pretty much going to last a lifetime of the customer or the account. So I think this is a great opportunity for success managers to leverage, and build that bond. What are your comments?
So two schools of thought. So one, your one-to-one client success manager would be your onboarding specialist. They would make sure that client, that top-tier client, they come alongside within the sales process and follow the customer all the way through. I see this onboarding specialist as being a teacher and a trainer for your actual perfect lead-in for your one-to-many. So if we talk about top tier, and now we're in the second tier. So that second tier customer would have an onboarding specialist for a certain amount of time. Then they would fold into a one-to-many program. The one-to-many program is designed to do just what it says, train a larger group on best practices, on ways to use and leverage the product. And what you're assuming is that they've completed this onboarding program and they've got a very good understanding of your product. So now your client success manager can focus in on improving their product usage. So they've got to get this baseline, which is done during onboarding in your like freshman orientation program. Then they transition to a client success team that's going to teach them to do more. And you've got a level set to grow. So while 20% of your clients will make up 80% of your revenue. You don't want to ignore this 80%. You don't want to provide one-on-one support. That's not sustainable. So you want to teach them, train them in bulk. You want to inform them and let them inform you back. You want to be able to teach key insights in the industry. Other ways that your top tier clients are using the product. For example, in my market, I want to help them be successful with their fundraising programs. They can leverage something that's being done by Michael J. Fox Foundation in a smaller nonprofit, and I can teach them through a user group, through a webinar, through a case study in this one-to-many type of program where they can inform me on what their questions are as well, but teaching best practices to a larger community is the goal of that one-to-many program. So the goal of your client success managers and your one-to-many is, again, removing barriers to success, but really focusing in on clients that are at risk and identifying those at-risk metrics. I was saying that, we have just a simple last time they logged in. If you have somebody that hasn't logged into your product in 30, 60, 90 days, they're not using it. So understanding those product usages and making sure that they're being met, those are some of your at-risk metrics. So your one-to-many is going to focus in on those those problem children. And your hope is they've gone through the freshman orientation, they're well-versed on training, and so if they're giving you a bad NPS score or giving you bad feedback on surveys, that's almost too late for you to do something about it. So your one-to-many are working on globally teaching and specifically training, specifically adjusting, specifically focused in on at-risk clients so they become promoters.
Interesting. I think that's, I hope it sort of clarifies, Laura, your point, and Simran answers you as well. If not, feel free to follow up with more questions. So on this value of debt, and Laura is thanking you. Thank you, Laura, for those wonderful questions. So keep sharing more. Everybody's, I think, enjoying this an interactive session. One question I have, I think I love the concept of the way you describe, like I mentioned, value of debt. How do I know that that the setup, the process, the engine that I have as customer success engine is either causing value of debts or is avoiding value of debt? How do I know? What's that one metric?
So we talk about time to live, time to value. So in my business, my time to live is their solution is done, it's published, it's on the web. My time to value is they've gotten a donation. We look at 90 days for time to value and 60 days time to live. Those are just kind of our standards. I look at a report, I have a scorecard, I look at it across the board, and if somebody's slipping, we start looking at it. If they're at 45 days and they're not in development, I need to know what's going on. So there's an escalation path, so that whether it's top tier clients or one of my one-to-many program, we're looking at those metrics every month. and understanding where the holdups and where, excuse me, where the challenges are coming in. And actually, it's a perfect lead in because one idea that I want to share and that's been very successful is something I call the elite team. And the elite team can be monthly or quarterly, and it brings in different stakeholders from the business: professional services, customer support, sales, marketing, everybody that has a view into the customer. And it helps a two-way information. So as the customer success managers, I can inform product on what customers are asking for. Marketing can inform us on marketing initiatives that are coming up, key industry insights that they've revealed. Professional services can talk about challenges they're having in deployment. Customer success can share with sales about, hey, this product wasn't a good fit. So the key mission of this elite team is really to expand the vision of customer success throughout the entire organization. It's a great way to educate and expand learnings, that voice of the customer, and to help each different department understand what customers are saying out there will help them be more successful in their role. You know, marketing needs to know what they're saying on the street. Sales needs to know what the customer thinks 90 to 120 days. It breaks my heart when I've sold a project and they don't renew. I'm like, what happened? Customer success can inform that. So this elite team is such a great way to align the entire company around this concept of customer success. And you know, my favorite is monthly. Most of the time they happen quarterly. Everybody's got an agenda. It's, you have 3 key points to share, both sides of the table, to make sure everybody is focused in on making our customers successful, making our product meet the industry we're serving. That was there was a question earlier about how to align everybody. This is a great way to do it. It's one of my favorite things that we've done.
Well, this is definitely a unique practice, and I think very well. I love the term elite team as well. Debbie, just a time check as well. I think we should.
I was saying it too.
Yeah, there's like so much that we can get from you. You know, we definitely will call you one more time, but let's see whatever we can cover in the next 10 minutes or so.
I know we're going to cover, there's going to be a short demo on CustomerSuccessBox at the end, but there's a lot of tools that you can use. You want playbooks. You want things that will measure your at-risk metrics. Getting data. Data is so important. Getting data handed off from sales to customer success. That's key. It'll help you understand your growth, your churn, your revenue projections. It's so important. A next role that I want to make sure that I touch on, and then I think I've got an org chart, but is retention marketing. You know, and this is a role that not a lot of customer success teams embrace or have. They look at just kind of an extension of their regular market, but most of your marketing is about lead generation. You're talking to your customers in a different voice. You want to keep them engaged. You want to be sharing specific use cases based on personas, based on different things. It's also a resource to develop content for your customer success team to deploy. Those case studies, those webinars, all of those different industry best practices, giving that big hug to your clients and telling them, you want to work with us because we know things, we can teach you things, we can do this together. That's what retention marketing is all about. KPIs. So your KPIs will be different, but they're also going to follow some of the same trends. Churn, so renewals, your time to live, your time to value, NPS scores, critical to measure your NPS scores, product usage metrics, understand what you can measure. If you can't track it, you can't measure it. So know what you can pull out of your product database in order to measure how customers are using it. Understand your revenue. So take the time as you build out your program to build out those KPIs alongside of it. And then finally, this is your org chart. This is just an initial plan. You've got your director of customer success, your one-to-many, your one-to-one, your onboarding, your retention marketing, scaling 5 to 1, or I'm sorry, 50 to 1, 200 to 1. As you reach that capacity, you start adding more staff. That's the way you're going to scale your team in a very simple way. Now, one of the questions you ask, who does customer success report up to? That's going to vary from organization to organization. Right now, I had both sales and customer success simply because we're a small organization. Honestly, there should be almost a Chinese wall between sales and customer success because they're responsible for selling it. You're responsible for retaining it. So customer success more and more is reporting up into a chief revenue officer or operating officer because it's the bank of the business. Sales is the deposit, customer success is the savings account. So if you think of it from that scenario, who do you report into? I report to our COO. But again, we're a small organization and there will most likely be a split between sales and customer success as we grow. That alignment though is important because you want to make sure that your sales team is selling good deals. So keep them in check to actually deliver lifetime value to your company. Where do you find them? You want people that are recognized in your industry. They need excellent customer skills, passionate about your product. Many people will gravitate towards hiring support analysts, promoting them into customer success roles. I don't love that because I believe the support analyst is trained on the art of resolving an issue, not building relationships. So you need to be careful to hire individuals who can build long-term business relationships and have the type of maturity and temperament to talk to the next level. It's really important. Designation is maturity and the temperament to be able to discern how to get you to the next level. I think I've got common mistakes. You can't measure product adoption. They're too entrenched in support issues. You're setting unreasonable goals. And I do want to make sure I show this. This is it's a little old and dated, but this is a scorecard. So I've talked a lot about not getting hung up in support issues, not doing this, but making sure that you have KPIs and things you're measuring. So we measure financial objectives, satisfaction objectives, and product usage. There's not a ton here, but we measure them. We look at them every quarter. I report up to our senior leadership what we're doing with it. This is shared in my elite team meetings. Everybody wants a higher net promoter score. We want higher customer retention. We want to improve usage. Product wants to know what key functions are being used. So all of this information funnels down into informing the company in various areas. Whew, that was quick. All right. That's it. Now questions.
So yes, I think that last scorecard sort of nailed it because you're looking at, and it is very interesting for those of you going to stay around for the Customer Success Box demonstration. I don't want to talk about it, but you'll see how beautifully it aligns with the scorecard, Debbie, that you just showed, because we believe that there's just not one single health metric. We believe in 4 pillars ourselves, and we'll talk about it. They're very identical to what you just showed, and that was very useful. So Simaranjit here believes that the organization should be as flat, in fact, a very simple hierarchy. Yes, I completely agree with you, Simaran. I love flat organizations. In fact, the term that we use internally is self-managed teams where you don't need a manager, and that's the ultimate nirvana. And
It all goes back to hiring the right temperament and the right maturity,
yes,
particularly if you're in a smaller agency. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And Samaranjit also is saying that, so they also measure 3 things: experience, engagement, and transformation. I'm assuming transformation as is the value delivered, which is product adoption.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Transformation. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to write that down. That was good.
Yeah, Samaran, we're gonna shamelessly steal that articulation and use it in our marketing tool as well. Nilesh is hearing. Thank you, Samaran. Samaran says no problem. He's not claiming any copyrights. Debbi,
Cool.
one question before I let you go is, we spoke about hiring and who to hire first and who to hire second, but specifically talking about, when do we hire the customer success leader? Is it right at the first step? Like, is the customer success leader comes in and then he or she starts to build the team, or he comes in somewhere in between when you know, whoever is the acting success leader sort of starts to feel that, okay, it's too much work, or is the customer success leader going to come in the end?
I think you hire them first. I think you hire your leader and then your leader hires their team. Because you want that leader to have the vision that's going to be reflected in the program. So that lead is not just, you know, a butt in a seat. It's their vision that aligns with what management's vision is, that's going to create a successful program.
Gotcha. No, that's very good insight, and the way you've sort of seen this multiple times, and I'm sure people have you've seen it happen in all sort of possibilities where leaders come in later or initially, and the result is so different. Well, with that, Debbi, thank you so much. I think what we're going to do for everybody who's still online is we still have many of you actually still connected. So we're going to show you CustomerSuccessBox, a quick 5-minute overview. In fact, it'll not be an entire overview. We will talk about just one specific piece given the time constraint. But before that, Debbi, thank you so much. You know, the knowledge that we just got in the last 50 minutes or so, I think is so great. Everybody's, of course, thanking you, Derek enjoyed it. So we should be calling you back for many more panel discussions. Last opportunity, anybody else? If you guys have any questions for Debbi, while I try to bring up the demonstration instance. All right, no, okay. So Debbi, with your permission, can I go ahead and share my screen?
Absolutely. Do I need to?
No, I think I should be able to. Yeah, I should be able to. Cool. Okay. I believe everybody should be able to see my screen. Now, given that we are already over time, so we're not gonna do a fairly detailed demonstration, but I'm basically gonna connect this back to what Debbi was showing us in the scorecard. So this is CustomerSuccessBox. You dive in, you log in as a success manager here. John is logged in. It's obviously a dummy account, and you see your overall dashboard and stuff. But let's dive into the specific piece that I wanted to talk about. Now, this is a list of accounts that John has, and you can see, for example, I'm going to zoom into one of these accounts. And Debbi, if you have any comments, please do feel free to chime in. Let's look at this one account. But rather than you, of course, when you're zooming into one single account, the way we've realized is customer health cannot roll up to a single health score. And we've seen, you know, your platforms which have customer health as a number, like one account with 42, 38, 62. And as a success manager, frankly, I'm still confused. Okay, how is 42 different than 64? I still don't know. So what we've done is we've kept health very, very simple on the outside, but we've divided health into 4 key pillars, which is number 1, product adoption, which remains to be the single most leading indicator of any risk and a proof of value delivered. Product adoption is that ultimate goal. Financial health, are they buying more? Are they buying less? What are they paying? Is there any overdue invoice? What is the amount of that invoice? All of that stuff. What's the service quality health? This is the support ticket pieces, especially during the first 30, 60, 90 days, during the onboarding phase. Are you seeing too many tickets? How many critical tickets? How many tickets are they, switching away from the trend of bringing in tickets? Silence in the tickets is also not good, and too many critical tickets. Usually too many tickets are good. The customer is trying to learn something and engage and trying to use the platform, but you don't want to be missing SLAs and things like those. And you can connect your Zendesk, your Freshdesk, or any other ticketing platform that you might be using, even in Intercom, and bring that data in directly to our systems, and we will be able to calculate the health based on service quality. Then, and how do you set all these healths up? They're all configurable the way you want to configure them, and I'm just going to quickly give you a glimpse into that in a minute. The last one is a relationship health. For example, if you're talking about that tier 1 account, you can set this health as if an account has been out of touch in the last, there has been no touch in the last 90 days. That's a cause of concern. That should get reflected here. And no matter how many parameters you use on structured data, there are always risk factors which are unstructured. Things like a champion left, or there could be another tag. For example, trying a competitive product, or evaluating an alternative product. And this is a risk that that cannot be captured in a more structured way. And this is where some of these risk indicators come in, and a success manager can say, oh, based on these 2 inputs, I believe there is a risk. There's a high risk or a medium risk, and you can set that up as a manual input. But how are we calculating all these health? And that is where CustomerSuccessBox sort of shines the most, should I say. And this, by the way, is an account view where you can see where they are in the product adoption journey, because your product adoption can be broken down into real milestones, and these are not check or uncheck boxes. These are essentially real product adoption data points which automatically sort of light up these light bulbs when the milestones are achieved, and otherwise they'll be hollow. You can act and connect and communicate to the customer right here, and all the communication sort of stays here, including making phone calls to the customer from right here. And down to an individual user level, okay, within the account, which user is doing what, to that detail you can see. But now let's zoom into, I won't have time to go into everything, but I'm going to zoom into how do we configure that health. And that is the most critical piece. So you're not setting up just one health, you're setting up product adoption health, relationship health, service health, and financial health. And all of this is configurable. It is configurable. In fact, let me show you slightly expanded view first. So we've configured product adoption here as total features used is greater than 10, and you can be specific on which feature, which module. Relationship health is based on, okay, I need to have this much frequency in the touch points. The risk scores that I was just showing, the unstructured data, also maps up to relationship. You can also talk about service health and activate it. So let's go and look into what parameters can influence. So product adoption health will be influenced by simple product adoption parameters such as users, total active users, daily active users, frequency, active days, usage frequency, total features used, things like those. Even time spent in the system. So I can say, for example, time spent in the system should be at least, let's say 500 minutes every 14 days, all users combined. Or you can go down to a particular feature level and say, this is mimicking a marketing system sort of a scenario. So let's say heat map generated is a feature which is offered by this product, which CustomerSuccessBox is tracking. So you can say, okay, feature heat map generated is used at least 5 times in the last 30 days. And a lot of times this 5 is an interesting threshold. You don't know whether 5 is too high, too low, and you want that perfect, and which is very difficult to get for a large number of customers. And we've got an advanced flavor here where you can set it up as a percentage, not just a hard value, but let's say 10% of the total active users should be using every 30 days. And this number of active users or any other data point that you want to set it up as a percentage of is unique to that very account. And hence, what it does, it essentially enables you to configure account health configuration at an account level. You're not hard coding the thresholds anymore, and that makes it very, very powerful. Now with this, let's move to financial. So in financial, you can use things like invoices. Is there an invoice overdue? Is the invoice amount overdue and stuff? Similarly, subscription data, MRR, things like those. Service health can be configured based on how many open critical tickets are open, how many total tickets are open. All of that data points can be used. And the relationship health can be based on, for example, last touch points. So I'm going to just set this one up to showcase. So let's say last touch point should be, for an account to be in good health, last touch point should be less than 30 days ago. The moment you sort of cross this, it's no more in good health. And so you can see how powerful the entire system is, because it allows you to configure health in the right scorecard, and all of that is calculated at every account level. Well, unfortunately, that's all that I have time for. This is like 5% of CustomerSuccessBox that we've shown you. If you would like to sort of know more, see how we have translated our understanding, our learning and theories into practice here, feel free to sign up for a demonstration, and we'll be happy to sort of do a much more detailed conversation and a demonstration with you on how we can best address whatever your requirements are. So with that, I think we are ready to call it off. I'm seeing many chat messages. I'll try to answer them before we close for the day. Otherwise, from the demonstration perspective, we're done. Okay.
So I'll ask the question. So if the car is asking, how have you defined a touch point?
So how do we define touch point? So because so ours is the most actionable customer success platform out there. That basically means we essentially believe that a customer success platform or technology should not be analytics alone. Data is necessary, but not sufficient. That means data can be a great starting point, and we have that. And that's how we calculate product adoption, by mapping in all the data, by bringing in all the product usage data and logging into CustomerSuccessBox. We record like millions of data points from sent to our servers every day. But on top of it, we allow you to engage from right within the platform. We have a two-way sync with Gmail, for example. You can send emails, use templates, make phone calls, log activity, QBRs, trainings, all of that data, all the feedback, everything stays in CustomerSuccessBox. And because we can do that, we are able to translate that information into touch points as to when was the last activity when you touch base with the customer, whether it was a training, an email, a phone call, a meeting, a QBR, whatever it is. I hope I was able to answer that, Iftikhar. Okay. Perfect. I hope sort of all the questions were answered. Thank you so much again, and look out for our next session, and we'll take it forward then. Thank you, everybody. Signing off. Cheers. Bye-bye.